road, that kind of thing. And third kind of students are those who have already developed something, but they want to expand their venture further. They want to seek funding from the investors. So I think you'll have to address from all these 3 points of view, and your topic is on this pitching for the investors. I think that will be useful for all, even the three categories which I have mentioned. So thank you very much for sparing time to address our students, and I hope in future also we will get your support, similar kind of support. So now over to you, Dr. Momita. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sharma. Now, I would request today's expert, Mr. Venugopal, to take today's session on the topic, current startup ecosystem and how to pitch startup to investors. Mr. Venugopal, please.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. So thanks a lot for giving me this opportunity to interact with the relevant entrepreneurs who are the budding entrepreneurs of IGNOU and the experts of IGNOU who are helping them build this. So I have been associated with the innovation club for a while. So I know that a lot of things are happening there and a lot of good, kind of students and ideas are coming up by the help of the faculties and the department of IGNOU. So now to the topic today, we are going to, I'll just take it. So the topic was that current startup ecosystem and how to pitch the startup to investor. So that is basically, we call it the art of fundraising. And it is the journey for your solution to venture. So whenever you find a solution, there is something which you are doing. You have an ideation portal where you put in your ideas, then you go ahead and work a solution, and then you go ahead and make it a venture. So this is the whole journey, because without fund, the solution cannot be converted to a venture. And without a solution, you cannot make a venture. So it's a chicken and an egg story. So we have to first understand, for first timers, what is your steps in a startup journey. The first is ideation. Second is product discovery. Third is a minimal viable product. And then step 4 is go to market. So when we are talking about fundraising and we are talking about looping in investors, we are talking about how exactly we can get in investors to invest in our ventures, in our idea, how do they buy it in the idea. So we have already done these 3 steps. So people who are here are just working for step 4. As ma'am and sir both said, that we have a mixed crowd. We have people who are either at step 4 or at step 1 or at step 2 or at step 3, where they want funds just to make a minimal viable product, because that is not easy for them to make. So there are various steps for it. So this session would be covering information for all of them. And at the end, I will also tell you that Government of India is also working on a lot of startup support, and they are getting vocal for local. So they also have a dedicated resource channel or a dedicated resource hub for helping you. So all those things we will be covering in this session. So now this agenda is what is fundraising, dating with your investor, how and when, and what is the fundraising approach. So this is one of the critical element. Every entrepreneur is stuck when he is done with his products, he starts working on it. So either it is at the starting level, or it is for the expansion of his idea, or if he wants to just become a unicorn. In those all the cases, he needs fund, the right connects, the right people. It's not always funds, it's right connects as well. Because if you go to an expert who has been expert in a specific industry for almost a decade or 2 decades, he can help you getting the inroads to the right people who will value your proposition, who will value your startup. And it's not related to any funds, because you might be able to earn funds if the idea is good, or you might be already earning the funds as well for your survival. But if you need to go to the next level, you need to involve the right people, you need to have right co-founders, you need to have right mentors, you need to have right people backing up the startup. Okay. So first we'll is, what is pitching to an investor like? Is it science or is it art? So the good thing is it's a mixture of both. So you need to understand that there is no perfect method to impress an investor, and there is no perfect presentation style to basically impress an investor. So the good thing about this is you need to mix both of them, and you need to just not present numbers. You need to talk about your passion. You need to talk about things which you have done, your success stories, your customer stories, and things like that. So it's a mix of both. So numbers are very, very important, but similarly the passion and the art and the idea behind it, the solution behind things, the problem statement, those all things are very important as well. So it's a mix of both of them. So you have to be sure that what you are pitching, what you are doing with your company, you have to have a clear vision. You have to have a clear passion of things which you are working on, what your company is working to, how your customer is getting impressed, and then what your customer is coming up to you. So there are a lot of programs as well now. The good thing is starting in India as well, wherein you can just go on a television or an online platform where you see that how people are pitching to the investor, what things investors are looking at. And there are a couple of founders and co-founders of very successful unicorns who are sitting in the panel, and they want to invest in your company. So those things are there where you need to kind of see that it's a mix of science and arts. It's not about just the numbers. It's not about just the graphs. It's not about just the growth of the company. It's about how it will work for the society, or how it is related to your passion, because people invest on people. They don't invest on an idea. They invest on the person who is behind the idea. So if there is a guy who is very passionate about something, so they will be like, doing wonders on a specific idea. So they invest on people, not just on an idea. So moving to the next slide, it's specifically a mix of art and science, but not a science only. That I will follow this formula and it will just give me a result. Okay. Now, what is basically raising fund like? Raising fund like is a dating. Okay, so when you just do dating, what you usually do, you go ahead, you find about the other person, you try to talk about them, you try to know that person, you try to understand by leaps and slips, you try to show the best of yourself, but yet you have to just show what exactly you are. So you need to know everything and anything about both of the parties. And that's why we call it is just like dating, right? That you are dating someone, so you have to go ahead. There is an art of dating. There's a way that you have to represent yourself. There is a specific art to it and a science to it, that okay, if I'm going ahead and I'm dating someone, what I need to do, what are the good things I need to put on, what are the good manners I need to show, and hence and forth. So in the similar manner, what are the various corporate ethics you need to follow, what are the various mannerism you have, how the things would be working. So that is basically how it works. So it is something, raising fund is like dating. So if you just think that first of all, when you are on date, you should not be very, very excited, you should not be very, very dull. It should be a mix of everything. You should be comfortable, you should be in your own comfort area, you should be confident. All those things apply to your fundraising as well. Then the other thing is, do you want to raise money, or do you want to find people who can help you raise money, or do you want to have people who can help you grow? So that is basically, you should know that what exactly I need when I'm going in front of the investors. Okay, so let's say, for example, a simplest example would be you are presenting to Ratan Tata, or you are presenting to some of the biggest business names like Anand Mahindra and all. So you might just, even if you get their name or endorsement, that is more than money, right? So you don't even need to raise money, because then customers will start paying you if you get an endorsement from such people, right? So you have to know what exactly you need for your startup, that whether I just need money, or I need some endorsement, or I need mentoring, or I need inroads to certain areas where some people can give it to me. Okay. So the first thing is that customers come first. This is a very, very, very important thing. And then the investor follows. So you have to understand that if I just sit in my house, I make a prototype and nobody is willing to buy it, then no investor is coming to you, because the customer should love it. It should be solving a problem. So let's say if I say I will be creating a spaceship which will take you to the moon, and it is an excellent scientific solution, but you don't have any buyers for it, then it's a problem, because investor knows it, that if there is a market that you might have 10 customers, but how exactly they will try to get in more customers, right? So even if they fund it, it will be a waste. It will just be more of a lab exercise or more of a scientific genius exercise, which they don't want to do, because investors need profit and they want ROI, that is return on their investment. So first thing is, every startup should think is that the customer comes first. So the customer you have to understand your customers, you have to give them a solution, and then investors would follow. In the last couple of months, you might have seen a lot of unicorn startups going going for public issues and all, like Nika, Paytm, Urban Clap, Urban Company. So you might have seen those, the pattern, how they were. So they were having a lot of customers. They started small. Their product offerings were there, and then they just made sure they had a lot of customers to let the investor flow in, and then the investor added on to their market share, and slowly and gradually they became very big companies, right? So the first thing is, you have to prove it. So you have to prove a point. Let's say, for example, I come up with an idea that I have made a small pen, which is pretty useful, and it will be, kind of accepted, and it is so unique that everyone will have to buy it. So in that case, I just have to prove with some numbers that in first month I had an acquisition of 5 customers or 2 customers. In the second month, I had 4 customers increase. And then, so you just show the increase, you show that you can scale. And then you have to be clear that whatever you are pitching in, you are able to convince the investor that how you will be using the funds and how you will be scaling with that amount if you're trying to get the funds, or if you're trying to get any support, how that will be helpful to you. And you have to prove that point, and that should be backed by the data, that should be backed by transactions, and that should be backed by your balance sheets. Okay. So in case you have to work in things for it, the approach is simple. And what is inside this whole slide is how you make an approach, how you are breaking down the pitch, and the ask from the VC funding. So I've been talking about you should be prepared on that, how exactly you have to see. So when you just meet investors and you're talking to investors, it's just like talking to your HOD or your professor or an expert on any topic. So they have limited time, they know a lot, so you don't have to beat around the bush. You should be clear, simple, and straightforward to ask what you want. So your ask should be listed very clearly in your pitch deck, that what do I want from you? Because they don't have a lot of time. They are experts, and they are in the market. They are experts in the areas where they were planning to invest, and they have the whole information which you might be giving to them, which they already know. But what you're asking in for, they don't know. So just make sure those points are perfect, so that the ask is very important. So you prepare the approach, you break down the pitch, and then how you work it out. So the great question of all the times, that how much time it takes. So it's not like that success is very easy in this. So for the people who are working towards startups, they might be knowing, or who are already running their startups, what exactly is the time taken, how many meetings with the investor you take, what is the success ratio and all. So first thing is, from the state of startups which we are talking about, that which are based on the sampling of venture-backed founders, and also this is the data based on that. So if you think the time taken usually for meetings with the investors and getting something invested is usually 4+ months. Okay. So in the first months, you try to pitch in for the inside round, and then you just go ahead and increase the meeting with more than 3 investors, then 3 to 5 investors in 3 months. And in 4+ months, you should be at least meeting 30+ investors. If you are kind of lucky, you can just go ahead and close it before that. But usually the cycle is 4+ months, where you'll definitely get an investor. If your idea is there, you have the relevant cash coming in, you have the relevance to the customer, and your idea is perfect. So when you're talking about a minimal viable product, so that would be something when we are talking about the inside round. So this inside round and less than 3 months is something wherein you can get a seed investor and who can just invest in your idea to make a MVP, that is the minimal viable product. or the prototype which you call. So those things can be done in this relevant stipulated time period. So you have to think in and you have to be prepared that this is how it will be. There'll be a lot of failures, there'll be a lot of things, but you have to stick to just two principles: that your customers love it and you are clear on your ask and you are getting in certain funds in. So that is what is something which will keep, which has to be going on, because the moment you meet an investor with this first month and you meet the same investor after 4 months, it should see the increase so that he sees, oh, this can scale up because this guy is already scaling up a little bit and he's adding customer year month on month, week on week. So it is not matter the number. It is just like it does not matter that if I have added one customer in a month, I should be adding one more customer or two more customers in the next month or four more customers. So it should be showing that person that this is being scaled. So it's one thing I want to just have a disclaimer out here, that learning a few fundraising tips does not mean that you will be able to raise the money. Okay, but you will have hard time raising the money without knowing them. So fundraising tips are there for you just to be, it is just like a ready reckoner. It is just like what you
Can I come in for a moment?
Yeah.
Mr. Venugopal, it's a very good
Vijay
presentation.
Kumarji, please let him
Yes,
complete
sir.
first.
Okay, fine.
Yes, please.
So let me just move.
Yes, kindly continue.
Yeah.
Venugopalji, kindly continue.
Yeah. So first thing is simple things. These are simple things, and these are certain things which we already know and people are knowing it. So you know what is the thing is the step one, you just kind of ignore it for now. This is basically some Excel which was there, but that is not relevant for this session right now. So what we have to do is we have to classify investors as leads and non-leads. So leads are not specific leads of marketing and all. So what we have to do is we have to understand a lead is an investor that can fill a significant portion for your round. So there are various rounds of investment. Okay, so there is a seed funding, and then you have a first round of investment, second, third, whatever you want to go it up till third round. It's a decent size investment because you lose a lot of your equity by then. If you are getting good investors in, you get a lot of money and you lose a lot of equity. So in that pattern of identifying leads, you have to understand that an investor that can fill a significant portion of your round, you have to find that investor. So you might have 10 choices, but you have to be sure that the investor, when you are picking up, who's the right investor for you, not from just from the money perspective, but from a perspective of the growth of the business. Let's say, for example, I pick up an expert for my business, which is a retail business, an expert like who has been a successful entrepreneur in IT and medical devices. So that will be a bad choice. So we need to understand that money is not the only criteria to be successful. You have to have the right mentor and you have to select the right portion and the significant lead. But in some point of time, if I'm just lacking of funds because I want to venture in new markets, I can take the chance of getting more funds from a non-domain specific investor, because I think my product is growing and just funds are the basic needs. So you have to classify that investment phase based on that round. So that is your product choice, your understanding, and that is what you have to do. And then what exactly is the step 3 is knowing the VCs, from the people who know the VCs, getting warm intros to them. So there is always an impact. Let's say, for example, we have been seeing this since the beginning of this session or in our whole lifetime. Momita madam came in and she introduced me with a warm introduction, and then OP sir put in good words for me. So that creates a persona for me, right? In the similar manner, you had your mentors, your teachers, your bosses who have been putting good words for you, filling out other people who are relevant and who trust them to put in some good words for the person, so that you create a persona and you create a trust on that person. So you should get warm intros from people who know the VC. So that is one of the important things. So if you can get them, you have to be very lucky, and if you get them, that is the key to a lot of fund success and all. And that's why you have a lot of companies outside helping you in incubation, a government where their government is taking you to a lot of people around, and they are taking you to a lot of investors. There are a lot of dedicated departments out there who can help you with that by understanding your project report and all. So there are a lot of sources, and there are a lot of them which you can kind of drill down to, and you have to basically understand that who exactly you need to bet on, and who are good investors for your basic startup, and who know the people, who know the VCs, and who understand the portfolios of the companies. And there are prominent outside founders which are there, and who are good investors, and who have invested in other things. So other things are people who are using as a finder fees or something like that. Try to go to them only if they are very, very specific, because when you try to go for a fund, people would, if they buy onto your idea, they will try to get in an equity or a stake in your startup if they see that will be more successful than finding out ways to just make quick money by finders fees or fees other than that. But that is also a good option in some areas and in some geos. Not in in every geo there is a specific setup and a framework how the startup ecosystem works. So in some areas, or in some geos like Europe or in US, it might make sense for the finders fees because the people in asking for their time. But in some ecosystems, it might not make sense. So you have to take that wise decision yourself. But the key is that some sources are better than others. So you have to make sure that you are able to qualify them. And that would be something you have to, have an expert, or you have to take your call based on the data. So that is where you have to use your ability to make the right decision, take the data points, lateral thinking, design thinking, all those things come into that picture. That what exactly, how, when, what is the advantage to me, when should I go for it, and whom should I go with for this. So that is how it will be. So pre-pitch advice, one of TC's test materials. So these are certain things it won't be relevant for you. So the whole thing is just make sure that you meet all potential lead investors and you build the momentum. So this is something you should know. So you should know there are a lot of groups and a lot of information available which you can easily have access to, wherein you can go to the VC circle, get the VCs, who are the prominent VCs investing, who are the people, who are the venture capitalist firms investing, PE firms who are looking in for investments, a lot of big consulting firms which are looking in for investment, government agencies looking in for investment. So make sure you try to meet as much as potential lead investors you can, and try to meet them in quick period so that you are building the momentum. They start talking about it among themselves. So there is a link to it. So now you might be knowing that in, let's say we take an example of IGNOU. So you have a computer science department, you have a, agriculture department, you have a maths department, you have a law department. People interact among themselves. If there is a buzz of something, these investors will talk among themselves. And that also creates a momentum for your idea, your startup. But whenever you meet, you have to make sure that you are having your relevant NDA sign and your idea is IP protected and all those things. And for those things, we already had sessions around this, and you can reach out to your old sessions and your faculties for that, wherein the department can tell you what exactly was done for that. So you have to be secure first and then meet as much as investor to build the momentum. So now with all these good things and ideas, there's still a major disconnect which we might have and which we might have to bridge. So that is one of the things which we have to understand, that doing all the things right does not guarantee you investment. So there is still a major disconnect, and what is that is basically the plan, how you are presenting your plan, and how actually VCs analyze that. You might be thinking that, okay, I'm just taking this thing, I'm just telling that, okay, I will sell 10 units a month, and then I'll make it 100 units next month, and then I'll make it 400 unit after 3 months. You just invest money in it, and they will be basically, you have to just go ahead and They will be just giving you the money. And that is one of the major mistakes people do, that you have to understand how VCs analyze that. They don't analyze, and every VC has its own priority and his own preference. So you have to understand how VCs are analyzing your plans. It's not your plan, because your plan is simple. I want to be a successful entrepreneur. My company should grow. My balance sheet should show the figures and the numbers. But what is the VCs actually, how the VCs are actually analyzing them? What is the roadmap for that VC? What is the roadmap for that industry? How this will be working? So let's say, for example, a simplest example would be, today the automobile industry is looking in for a green alternative. They are going in for electric cars. They are going in for EVs and all. So they want innovation more towards EV, instead of having innovations around, the traditional fuel systems and the traditional injections and all. People are looking in solutions for cleaner environment with the traditional systems or traditional engines or traditional vehicles. So if you are having that, the VC might be analyzing them based on that. He might not be just analyzing, I have made a very sleek car, it looks good, it is wonderful, it has power, it has speed, it is cost effective, but he might not be thinking, because he's looking beyond 1 year, he's looking beyond 2 years. So that's what we have to understand, that how actually VC analyzes them. So now you have to break down, this is how you break down a pitch. So if you have to break down a pitch, these are the things you have to do. What is the problem it is solving? So first thing is, every idea, every company, everything should be solving a problem, right? There is nothing like which does not solve a problem and it becomes an idea, because something has to be solved by that, a problem which is being solved. So that is around 20% of it, what exactly needs to be done. The solution, what is the solution to it? And then very important, if you see 26 points is for the team. Okay. So team matters. So let's say, for example, you want to go in for a startup wherein you have no experience, people might not trust you. So let's say Sachin Tendulkar doing a startup on, equipments for cricket and batting equipments and training, facility or a chain of training institutes across the world or India, people will trust him. So you should have the right team in place. They should be matching to the overall startup solution and the problem, how they are adding on to it, and what will be their unique point. Because people invest, VCs usually invest, as I said earlier also, in people rather than the idea, because they see who are the people backing it, how enthusiastically they are presenting their presentation, or what is the driving force behind it. Let's say, for example, you might have heard a lot of stories where people have started a startup wherein they had a social impact, but they were the people who were hurt, or they were the victims of certain things, which made them understand the problem, and they came up with a solution, and they were in the team. So, and because they can speak that passionately, and because it's simple like that. If I don't go to an area where it is basically I don't get my hands dirty, I won't be able to understand the actual problem and the solution to it. And then you have to understand the market, which is very important. You cannot sell umbrellas in a place where it never rains, right? So that's one thing which we have to understand, what is the market. So if the market is, for some area, it's a market which is available for how many months? Is it a short-term market? Is it a long-term market? What is the market in which I have to take it to? And what is the kind of audiences I have? And then very, very important is the competition. What is the competition? The first thing is, when you have a startup, let's say, for example, today I go in for a startup which is for manufacturing any food product like milk products, right? So I have to look at my competitors. Where are they? What are the business they are doing? And how quick they can, because when you get into the business, afterwards getting the money, it will be all about price war. It will be about the strategy of marketing. It will be about the need. It will be about the competition. So those all things are certain VCs would consider. So you have to make sure that what is the competition. I was in one of the, pitching sessions with the Cherry Blair Foundation. So therein a person pitched her Ayurvedic products, okay? So the first thing she said was that I have no competition in the world. I have just competition in India, because Ayurveda is very specific to India. So it's a very, very good pitch and a good solution, that I have just cut all the 217 countries or 210 countries which I have around, and I'm just specific to one country which might have the skills of Ayurveda, which is X population, and maybe 10% or 20% of the population might be coming up with this idea. So my competition is reduced a lot because I don't have a lot of competition around the world for it. So those are the things which you have to think, and that is how you can just talk about competition. So this gives and boosts the confidence of the the VCs that, oh yeah, this can be done. And you have such startups which has done very well with the traditional handicraft or a traditional business which is very specific to India, or a very specific Indian origin thing for a specific region. So we have to think about that also, that what is the minimal competition where I can pitch that. And then the traction, what is the traction? What will be the traction? Let's say, for example, the simplest example is air purifier. Was there a traction in market for air purifiers 10 years before today? In 200 and in 2010, were we thinking of air purifiers? Nobody used to buy air purifiers. We were not talking about air purifiers and all. And now we are talking about plant-based air purifiers. We are talking about various kinds of organic air purifiers, how we can do it either by simply keeping plants in your home, which is just an idea, or you have a plant-based purifier also, which is there in the market now, which works the purification of the air at the root level of a plant. So you can search that on Amazon as well. That product is available. So those tractions you have to see. And then what is your business model? The business model carries a lot of marks because your venture capitalist or the person who's investing in you, he means business as well, right? He won't be giving money to you just to use it. He wants to make profit. So what is your business model? He would need to understand, and he would need to have a buy-in in that. Then whatever happens to the startup is a thing which are there, as we told, it's a art, it's not a science. So it might fail as well. But you have a lot of case studies as such. Kellogg's, you have a case study of Kellogg's, Gillette, which you are reading in your business schools, wherein they show you that it miserably failed with a product which was doing very well in one geo. When it came to India, it failed miserably on few products, and then it just innovated, and the business model was changed, and boom, it went well. So those things we have to understand. So, but yet these are very important points. So this is basically a problem which was basically, if it was an interactive workshop, I would have taken up. But what we will just talk about it. It's a simple solution or an idea which can be done. Let's say, for example, there are people who are dog walkers, right? Who just take, and somebody came up with this idea also. So if I live in a locality where people are having a lot of dogs and they don't have time to walk their dogs, and if I go ahead and propose them that, okay, I have a company who can help you doing the dog walking during the morning and afternoon and evening, and you have to pay me this amount, they'll be more than happy to, because that is the need which they want. They love their pets and they want to take care of that, but there are a lot of other things which they are working on which are important, which they cannot ignore, because there is part of and parcel of their life which they need to do so that they are relevantly surviving. So in that case, they ignore that thing which they have to do. So if somebody gives them a solution to this problem, boom, you are there in business, right? A dog walker, a dog whisperer, a dog trainer. So these ideas are there. So this is just an example. So that is how it will be. The other problem, the simplest problem would be, so this is basically, if you just see that what exactly you are having the problem of two individuals. So this is one problem of an individual. This is the other problem of an individual. Okay. So what you can do, this is a model of scaling up. So if you see in this example, there is a model of scaling up which is out there, that a person, how you exactly scale up and what will be your scale up strategy and how it will be a good business model. So if you see from the other side, you can just see how exactly you can get people to do this for you, how exactly you can do it. So this is the scalable model. Let's say, for example, I tell you that I'll hire 10 people who will be who will be doing dog walking for me. Can I do that? Yes, you can do it. You have 8 hours. You can do it for 8 hours if you want to do it, right? But you have a time where you can 4 dogs or 5 dogs at a time. So you have to have a team. So in order to have a team, what will be the right match? So your business model is simple. I'm taking up people where my cost is lowered by taking a person who's a retired guy who just walks and he feels lonely and wants some company. You can ask him to walk a dog along with it or two dogs with him. Same is with a guy who is just going to college. He's a dog lover, but he walks his dog also, and he can also take another dog for a walk because he's already walking his dog, and he can add on to your add on extra money, and he makes cash, and he'll be more than happy to do it because he's a dog lover as well. So you are doing it, and you are basically marrying all these things from your framework or your idea, and that is your business model would work through. Okay. So now this is the solution, which you might be thinking that what I was talking about, the solution which you have Uber, right? Uber is one of the solutions who does not own even a single taxi. It has just done the same solution, right? There are taxi providers. There are people who want to use taxi. He has married the idea and they have become a multi-billion-dollar company. So that is how it is. So the idea is Uber for dog walkers. So you can just go ahead. If I'm in the area, you can just book that guy. You walk my dog. You want to do it monthly basis, subscription basis, on demand. You want to see the profile of the person. You want to see his rating, how he's good with dogs, everything. So the solution is this. So this is how you have to match it. And this will be very specific to all your ideas, all your startup things. So this is very simplified. But when it comes down to the business model, it will be much more complicated. And that is where you would need people to help you, mentors, your people who are successful entrepreneurs, people who are, out there doing business for a while, who has market pulse more than that. You will understand that. And no suggestion is a wrong suggestion. No idea is a wrong idea. No idea is a bad idea. So you have to understand that, and you have to be very receptive in terms of getting, when you get feedback on your startups and on your ideas, you have to analyze them. Once you have the solution, you have to run it through few people, see how it will be, and then try it quickly, and you fail fast. That is the thing. You fail fast. If you see that within a quarter, within 2 quarters, you're not getting the desired result, fail fast. Either change that strategy or just stop it, work on something else. That's how is the key to successful entrepreneurs, that they fail fast. So now coming to the VC, and we will just take the example of it. When VC wants to hear the solution, what they want you to, they want you to tell a story. Story is very important because that is compelling to me. Storytelling is one of the key aspects of any pitch. That why did I do it? It's the passion. It is the idea why it originated. So you might have seen that there was a kid who invented a pacemaker, and which was bought by, and he got an award also. His story was that my grandfather died due to a silent heart attack, and because of that, I was inspired to make this product, monitoring and a pacemaker, so that I can just, if there is something happening during the sleep, that monitoring device can warn on things and all. So those are the things. When you understand that why you are passionate about that problem, because I lost someone whom I loved, that's why my passion would never die. Because if I fail also, I'll just again come up and raise up and again work on it. And even if the times are tough, I don't have any money, but I'll try to basically invent something or do something. If you might have read of the story of Sir Henry Ford, he was basically passionate about building something, right? So he was working somewhere, he was trying to save money, he was trying to put his money in his research engines and all, and then finally, voila, one day he made the brand, which is the Ford cars which we use, and the first car was made and he was running. The similar was with Wright brothers. All the entrepreneurs, or similarly with the, if you just go ahead, there is a story. If you go to any company, any big company, if you go by the Hotel Taj stories, you might be knowing why it was made, why he made the Hotel Taj, why the Tatas, they made the Taj Hotel in Mumbai. So you would be knowing that there is a story. So there should be a compelling story behind what you're doing. And if there is a story, you will always succeed, because the VC wants to hear that. But it is not something that you have to make a story. It's not compulsory. It should be actually something which comes from your heart. And if there is a story, you have to tell them. If it is something that you heard something, because idea comes based on the problems you are facing, and then solution comes on that. And then it should be a real problem. That if you're talking about solving a problem, it should be solving the problem and it should be a solution which directly addresses all the key stakeholders, okay, without introducing new pain points. So you have to take care of this without introducing new pain points. That is one of the key aspects of it, wherein we are talking about that it should not be introducing new pain points. So there are some very good ideas which introduces new pain points. So that would be something he will say, oh, why should I do it? Because I can easily do it for this, with this existing solution, and it's not creating any pain points for me. Let's say, for example, you create a air filter for your vehicles, which will be cleaning the air, but it's adding to a lot of weight to the vehicle, and it's adding a lot of maintenance cost to it. So it's introducing new pain points. So people might not be interested. The VC might not be interested because he sees that, and he sees that customer might not buy it by seeing this, right? And then the final one is show a killer demo. So it is something that focus on the benefits, not the features. Features are something which can be added and removed, but you have to talk about the benefit, okay, and show that what is the future of the product it can become and how exactly you think it can scale up. As we were talking about scaling up, scaling up, scaling up, this is basically how you have to tell VC the solution of it, okay. Now for the pairs of dog, so this was the solution. I'm just taking an example of that, that the pairs of dog owners and dog walkers in a similar, in a seamless peer-to-peer experience, that okay, you are a dog walker, you are a dog owner, so you can just pair and match and all. So you tell the story that what happened. I was like, you tell the story that I love my dog, I cannot get away with it, or else it was a simple solution would admit I don't want to keep a dog, right? But I love my dog, I cannot stay away from him, or I cannot go ahead and, understand that there is a suffering that animal is having. I'm trying to have that, but I cannot get rid of that also. So you are talking about your story, and then you solve the problem. That what is the problem? That for owners, having a dedicated dog walker would be expensive. So if I'm sharing this thing, it'll be cheaper. Everybody wants to save some money. A compelling solution for dogs, more time with humans every day they can have. So all this again, basically a more time, knowing more people. Everybody wants to socialize. The animal love company of multiple people. They would be happy to walk with different people and knowing different people who love actually the animals and who have love for them. And for dog walkers, they make money for the dogs they're walking with while they're on the way to the work or anything else. And then show a demo how it will work on your mobile app or anything. And this is applicable for any product you're talking about. So you have to have a good working perfect demo. It cannot have glitches. It can have less features, but everything should be working fine, and it should be a workable prototype which is running. And then we have a team. A team is there with balance and skills and tasks and all those things. So just make sure that you find people. It's not essential that it should be great founders or great members from grade B schools and all those things, but it should be people who have worked in there, who have a span of time and have proven things, and who feel the pain of that particular founder and co-founder, and they just work out, okay. And you should have credentials in that space as well. No matter what it is of anything, you can just go ahead and pitch yourself. So the first thing is, it is nothing that if you are not from an Ivy school league, or you don't work with Google, or you have not worked with big companies, you will not be a successful entrepreneur, or you cannot have the right pitch. It is nothing like that. People with the great companies which are there out here, if you just go ahead and look at their founders, you will be amazed to see what were their education and what were their overall perception, persona, and how they grew. And you will have a lot of startup stories which you will see that it is not essential to be from an Ivy League school or from big companies. It just means that you have to work a little bit harder to prove your point. That's the only thing. Now about the market. So we have to understand that what are VCs obsessed with. Okay. So why they are obsessed with big markets? Okay. That we have to just go ahead and understand that VC wants to scale. They want to have a scaling returns on it. So there are a lot of products which have came in which are very, very good products, but they were not meant for a specific big market. So even if you capture the whole market, you won't be able to go ahead and venture the market. So that's why we see looking for big hits and with big returns. Let's say, for example, you have a country which has a population of around 4 crores, which is not even a population of a state in India equivalent to that. So even if you capture the whole market, you are still capturing just one state population of an Indian state. So you have to think that VC would be interesting in hitting a market which is more having a big hits and big returns than only of a have a returns which can be scaled up in a specific markets. So that's why they are so obsessed with big markets. So you have to talk about big markets and big audiences, that how it can address the big audiences, right? So you see a lot of products which are out there which are very low cost product, but they are doing very well and they have getting good funding because they are impacting a larger audience and big markets. So that so VCs are very obsessed with that it should be hitting the big market and it should be applicable to a big market, not a small market. Let's say, for example, if I'm innovating for a small group of people, which in overall in India and the overall world, it's just a couple of millions. So VC might be interested, but he might not be very, very interested in that. But again, as I was telling, it's an art, it's not a science. So that does not make that it's all about size, right? So that also is one thing which we have to understand, that it's not about size. So the other thing is, what you have to focus on, you have to focus on the barriers, you have to focus on the target, and you have to focus on the timings, and you should show the big vision. What exactly is your vision and how where you want to reach? So these things are there which should be well defined, and if you have a good solution, a good idea, you will be able to do that. Okay. So if you see with the example which we did, focus, barriers, timing, and big vision, Jane's target was to, so what was the focus? Just she loves the dog and she wanted to reduce the cost of her dog care, and she wanted to take care of the dog well. And what was the barrier? The first mover advantage to building a strong network of dog walkers. So this was the barrier. So you have to identify the barriers and find out how exactly I can get over them. And then that's the timing, that when this timing would be done. Okay. So you would have seen a lot of things coming up, startup coming up during COVID. The timing was there and they had barriers. But again, they were able to do certain things because of that timing. Because of the COVID, there were certain barriers which came up and they were trying to address them. And the timing was correct because that was the requirement of that hour. Okay. So they would have been successful and they would have got funded very quickly because people understand the timings. Okay. And then big vision. What is your vision? What you want to become? And what is the next thing you want to do? The competition, we have like you guys might be knowing a lot about the competition and all, how you can become better. You're just not adding features or going cheaper. It's not about that. Differentiation is not about being cheaper. You go to a store today, you have a very cheaper alternate, but you still buy the branded stuff, right? So you have to make sure that there is a quality in it, it's better. And your target customer should know. So if you just go ahead and read the story of Vishal Megamart, you would understand the kind of audiences they are talking about, what is the differentiation they have, and what they are doing. They're not having cheap goods, or they're not playing only for the market with cheaper and the cheaper goods and which are for competing with others. They are catering to a specific set of users, they are catering to a specific set of market, and they are creating differentiation and experience for them. So that is how they are successful out there, or they were successful, and then they were taken over by some other company. You have to understand with the dog example where you stand out, how you stand out to the competition, what you are trying to do. So it's again, this again comes to science, which talks about availability, price, and professionals and the neighbors. So you have to just check about the availability and the price. What exactly is your price point? What exactly is the availability of people? How you can offer that price point and how it will be helpful for a person. So let's say, for example, a guy who is just, a teenager who is just doing his school and all. He might not be that tied up, and he might be short on money. So he's not your client. He's a professional who can help you. So those things we have to understand. And then again, networking is also one of the pieces to it, so which you have to look at. Traction is something which you have to define for your product, that what is the traction. And it's not always about the growth, as I was telling, that it has to be the quality of growth, that how it will scale up, what will be the scalability, what will be the repeat customer base, because the 10% loss says that your 90% of your business would come by 10% of your repeat customers. So you have to make sure that my growth is dependent on this repeatability and scalability, not the acquisition of new customers. I can have a customer coming for once. If you just go and watch there is a channel called Naptol. You might see the products are coming so flaky, so low quality products. They come up, they sell them once, and they are done. You will never see that product again repeated in their advertisements, and that is how it is. So still they are running because there is a huge mass they are offering to. They are catering to a lot of people. But again, that is not the right growth a startup would be doing, because this is something you can just go ahead. Either you can scam people, or you can run a low quality product, just sell it once and you are out. You will meet your numbers because you have big profits, but still it's not the scalable model. So for growth, you have to be sure that quality of growth is there, scalability is there, and there is a repeatability of it. Okay. And then you have to be very specific, and this is one of the most important thing, that where you talk about your learnings, you talk about what you understand, how was the traction, how did you reach, how much it cost you, and how did you do it, and what is your plan for the next set of customers. So this is what you have to show to a VC in order to understand that this is something you would need and you would be able to work it out. Okay. So for first customers, you have shown that there is a traction in this channel. You have reached out this customer at X dollars or X rupees. And what is the cost for the lifetime of the value? What were the ad costs, print cost, word to mouth, what was it? And you can just put in. And then you just put in what would be coming with next X amount of users from the partnership which you are giving to the VC. Okay. So this is something which is very important, to be specific and show your learning. He has a little bit of time. They look into these slides. They understand this whole thing. If you are going ahead and telling that I had invested just 10 rupees on my Facebook ads and I got a business of 20,000 rupees, they know you are not correct. Yeah, you are misrepresenting. So they know all these channels. They know the cost of these channels. They have been doing it. So you have to be very well defined and giving them the right figures and telling them how exactly the traction was there, what is your plans, and how you'll use it. Now the business model is there. This is the questions you will need to be able to answer, and you should have an answer for them. How long will this product take to monetize? This is one of the key questions that you have to give them. They are investing. They are not people or a charity organization. So they would need to know what exactly is the time taken to monetize this product. So you have to be very, very, correct in that, and you have to predict it wisely, and you have to have the right data. You cannot be 100% correct, but yes, you have to be close to perfect. So that's what you have to just go ahead. So you talk about the impacts on investment on the returns. You talk about, holding a lot of monetization and hold off any meaningful monetization, that you have to be sure about. And then how much is the value created, which can be captured. Okay. So you have to also see that how you can use your customers to bifurcate and willingness to pay in the alternative market, so that you can just do a cross selling and all those things. So you have to talk about this market. What is the scaling up, how you can scale up, how you can just go ahead and work on different alternatives. And then the evidence which you have. Evidence is one which you have to show that there is how it is will be there, and that will be coming from the paying customers you have. If you want to give something for me to free, so the thing which have been told to people is, don't give anything for free, because if people get something for free, they don't even value it. So you have to make sure that if the customer is paying even 10 rupees to you, he means business. He will be just, taking out and seeing the value for money. He won't be doing charity, and the customer should not be a relative, or a customer should not be someone who just basically is buying for your, to satisfy you, and he just likes you. It should be your customers from the market who are investing or buying that product or putting that money just to go ahead, and they see the utility of it, and they are not just going ahead and helping you to initially scale up your startup. So it's not a funded startup by your family and relatives. It is something which is a true customer coming in, and it is coming in at a specific interval, and they are repeat customers. So that is what you have to have, and that is the evidence. The number doesn't matter. It can be 10,000, 5,000, 2,000, 100, 200, but it should be growing. It should be a repeat customers, because this first thing which VC asks you, how many repeat orders you have, right? So that you have to understand. And then the financial projections, of course, you are basically, you might be knowing your business, financial projections, everybody tell, people prepare it very well. So I might not get into it a lot. So this is something which you have, what will be your expenses, how you will be utilizing the funds, where you'll be putting their funds, and what will be the projection for that. So these are the things which people prepare very well for their business. And this can be something wherein you can take assistance for the relevant experts of finance and all, because people are usually working out this slide pretty well. And now the ask. This is one of the important things, as I had told in the beginning. What do you want to ask from the VC? You have to be very clear. So if you are asking for a capital, so VC would want to know how much you are asking for. Is this asked within my expected range? How much of the company would I own? How will you spend the money? And how much time it will take, the meaningful time for the value inflection point, which is the higher valuation or profitability. Okay. So these are the few points the VC wants to know. So you have to be sure in your pitch deck, this comes in very, very clear. So these two slides, the projections and the ask, these are very important, because they should match the ask, and the projection should match whatever you are asking, whatever you want, and the one which you have talked about, the business model and the returns, right? So growth and the business model. So these things are something which covers in this slide what the startup is asking you, or basically the venture capitalist asks you for. Valuation and all those things, I won't get into it because they will just get in a little bit complicated. But again, just at a high level, these are certain things which you would have people who are experts doing it for you, the accounting professionals, CAs and all. But valuation is basically the amount, if I simply put it, it's the amount of capital a VC plans to invest with the percentage of company VC wants to own is the valuation. Let's say I want to give you 1 crore. At what valuation I would have done it for your company? And there are big 5 companies which prepare evaluations and a lot of big reports, which how they show the valuation of your company based on the acquisition, based on the amount you have, based on the projections. So based on that, they just invest in it. Okay, so that is basically understanding. You have to understand. Okay. And there are, again, valuation is influenced by key factors and all. So we can just go into it. I'm not sure about people who have, in this audiences who have gone in for this valuation and all, who would understand this. But at a high level, it's more of ownership targets, supply and demand, what are the deal terms, and what is the investor conviction. So this is basically how you determine your valuation. When you say, if I want a big size of the company, the valuation becomes more, because a VC is taking a big size of the company. That means he buys in your ideas. He sees that the company will grow more. And if he invests less now, he will be able to buy it more. Let's say, for example, the simplest thing people do it is that you buy, certain things like for valuation, you buy a land. The simplest example would be ownership target. Let's say 2 of your friends are buying a land and you think that after 10 years, this land would be very, very expensive. So you pitch in and you get 2 people to invest in it, and you are just willing to give 50% of the money or 75% of the money you are arranging for it, because you are having a conviction and you are having a feeling, a gut feel that this would be basically you should have large ownership because you will have higher returns. So if you are having that, the valuation will automatically go high for the company, because the VC is trying to invest more and buying more share in it, and he'll be willing to pay more for it. And then the supply of demand. So it's again the principle of supply and demand. It works here as well. So how high is the VC demand in the industry for that particular solution and idea? So that is how it will be. And then the deal terms are there, which are one of the key factors, that how your liquidation would be done and what will be the preferences, what will be the pro rata rights. So these are complicated terms. These can be discussed once you would have you reach that phase, and all those things. People can help you do that, and you can also learn from various further readings and all, and then the conviction and everything. So you have the investor conviction as well. So those all things can be worked out, and this is something which you need to read further to understand the valuation. It is just more of just giving you a understanding of the valuation, but you need to discuss with experts and your mentors and your relevant people helping you out and who are knowledgeable about it to help you around that. So what IGNU team has to provide, I'm just finally coming to the end of my slide. So that completes your overall pitch deck and what exactly the factors you should work on. And now what IGNU team needs to provide the framework on. So this is something which is for our team and the current Sharma ji and Momita ma'am for working it out. We have already discussed that how to involve faculties as co-founders. So this will be something framework we need to work out. How to connect incubators and startup to incubate for investors. Framework for IGNU contribution, that how if IGNU is contributing, how they want to own the IP, what they want to own, how they want to work. Fundraising experts approaches where specifically IGNU departments are the major stakeholders. So these would be certain things which we have to kind of consider and work it out. So these are certain things which are food for thought for the next steps, wherein we want to involve departments of IGNU or faculties of IGNU who want to contribute. But for people who are students of IGNU, are relevantly connected and how they want to work. So I think relevantly we will be coming up further, because I remember we already are thinking towards this, and the overall, this innovation club is already thinking about it, how they want to move forward and how this model would be worked out. Then what is the Government of India help? These are the various portals you can go in. You have various schemes by Government of India, and relevantly, before going to private investors, you can try things out here, or you can directly go to private investors first. So that is your choice, but the government is helping this way. They have various schemes coming up. You have VC scheme, you have a support for international patent protection, you have a Startup India whole department set for it, and there are a couple of young individuals who are there, and they are very dynamic individuals working over there. So if you want, I can connect you a couple of them to them as well, and they give you space, working areas, a lot of things they provide you if they're impressed with your ideas and all. And there is a specific ideation competitions as well, startup skills competitions as well. So that also you can just go ahead and see. And now I think that brings me to the end of my slide. And this is my coordinates, which you can, kind of get to the team plus me. My personal email ID is there. So I think that is all about this. And I'm done with my presentation. So I'll be now open for questions you want. You can ask me any questions. I'll stop sharing my screen and we can just talk about that.
Thank you, Mr. Venugopal, for that brilliant, insightful, and thought-provoking session. You have, in very simple words, explained the value and nuances of pitching, traction, valuation, with relevant examples. And you have given our listeners a peek into the minds of the investors when they evaluate a business plan. So thank you very much. In fact, your talk would not only be valuable for our students, but also for our IGNU faculty who are now moving towards nurturing innovator students. So if your time permits, we will take some queries or comments from our participants who are listening here today. Yeah. I would like to request our participants to be very brief in their comments or queries. So before I invite others, I would like to request Dr. Sharma to give his comments, please. Dr. Sharma.
Excellent presentation. Excellent.
Thank you, sir.
In fact, you have pitched your presentation to the level of students, what they require. Because these are the questions which normally we face when we interact with the students. What kind of focus should be given while presenting the idea, developing the business plan, other things. So that way, it's a very good presentation. And I think that you have also rightly said that those who are in the initial stage, for them this kind of presentation will be good, but for those who are willing to do something beyond this, we may have to have a separate session focusing on the other aspects that we'll have to do. So that can be a special kind of training workshop for those who are really willing to do something, developing business plan, in fact, evaluating the business plan, or asking them to present their ideas for the startup purpose. So that will be good to organize separate program for them. But this today's program is uh, very well to the level of the students who are basically the general category students, for the purpose of motivation and general awareness. So thank you very much. Excellent presentation. And you have covered almost all aspects which should be in a general presentation. Momita, we can invite some questions or comments, but very brief, not detailed ones.
Yes, we would like to invite questions or queries. Mr. Vijay Kumar wanted to ask something during the session. Would you like to ask anything? So I'd like to invite other participants who want to ask or comment on the topic, please. Abhilash Naik ji, आप कुछ कहना चाह रहे हैं?
Namaskar to everybody. Thank you very much, sir, for this wonderful presentation. You have answered most of the questions asked by our participants during the sessions. As a matter of fact, day before yesterday, I had a session on design thinking, critical thinking, and innovation design. And many of the questions they asked, questions related to your area. I am very much thankful to you. And one more thing I would like to tell you, that my son is a veterinary doctor. When you are giving the example of dogs, the dogs being taken care of by a team of people through a startup, I think it will inspire me to advise my son to do something about this, so that the medical care of such pets can also be taken care of. In addition to just taking them for a walkout, they can also provide medical care to such pets when they are in need. I think they can collaborate with such startups and do it. Thank you very much, sir, for this wonderful session. I request NCID to share the presentation with all of us to RC, so that we can organize such sessions at our own level. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Namaskar. Very inspiring, very motivating, very enlightening. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Naik. In fact, you can. This presentation is available in the IGNOU official Facebook site. You can use that also for the students at your regional center as well. We have Dr. Umesh Pandey ji, who has raised his hand. He wants to ask a question or comment. Dr. Pandey, please.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Momita. My voice is clear? Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Yes, you're
Okay,
audible.
thank you very much. So first of all, I would like to compliment our honorable speaker for today. That it was an excellent presentation. We got immensely benefited by this. In fact, I missed some initial part of it. A small query which I have, and I think you are the most, you are the right person to answer that query. We are seeing your experience, because we have seen that several factors actually are responsible for the successes of the startups. And but which factor plays the most vital role? And I had just seen a TED talk by Bill Gross, and who says that there are several factors, and out of them, what he says that the timing is the most important factor which decides the success of a startup. Means whether it is right, the timely launched, and then the team and execution, then uniqueness of the idea comes at the third place, and then the business model, then the funding comes at the last point, yeah, he says. And so what do you think, sir? Means which factors should be playing the most important role as far as the success of the startup is concerned. I had seen that Bill Gross, the video by Bill Gross, but he has said something, but still I would like to hear some your interpretation of this.
Yeah, so I had already highlighted that whenever you are going in for a startup, the four aspects are focus, barriers, timing, and big vision. So there was nothing wherein we talked about that the funds was the issue, because if your timing is correct, you will get money. When I was giving the example of the dog, this thing, Jane's Market, for the dog walker. So it was basically four factors were there: focus, barriers, timing. So timing, as you rightly said, is one of the most important thing. And I gave a COVID example as well, because there were people during COVID, some startups, some ideas, which were funded instantly and were funded by government and were funded by private individuals, like, open-heartedly, very quickly, but money was never a constraint for them because the timing was so correct. So that is right. Timing is one of the key aspects which plays a very important role. Does that answer your question, sir?
Yes. Thank you very much, sir.
So, do we have any other questions or queries from our participants here? So, if there are none, then we would like to end this session today.
Yes, please.
So I would like to thank our expert, Mr. Venugopal, for sparing his valuable time to give this inspiring talk. I thank all the directors and heads, or regional directors, faculty members, and academics of IGNOU for attending today's session. I thank Mr. Rajesh Sharma, head of the Public Information Unit, for providing NCID with a Facebook Live platform and ensuring the smooth conduct of this program with utmost dedication. I thank Dr. O.P. Sharma, Director NCIDE, and my colleagues, Dr. Josna Dikshit and Dr. Sujata Santosh, for their untiring support. I thank Mr. Pawan Kumar for extending his assistance in the smooth conduct of this program. So this brings us to the end of today's session. Hope to see you next week. Till then, namaste.
Thank you, ma'am. Namaste,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Venugopal ji.
Thank you, everybody. Namaskar. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.